Hello, this is Cash, and I'm one of the two people behind the Brain Jacket YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be going over a few of my video and gameplay settings. I'd like to mention one thing before getting started. There are several settings that I'd like to tweak based on the mood of the video that I'm recording at the time. So if you're trying to match a certain look from a specific video in the past, it may take you a little bit of messing around in the Reshade menu. With that being said, let's dive in. We'll start with the in-game graphics menu. I prefer to leave STALKER headlamps on for more dramatic nighttime gameplay. I do not enable VSync, and since most modern monitors ship with G-Sync or FreeSync nowadays, you probably won't need it either. FPS limiting is up to you, and I do recommend using it if you prefer a more consistent experience, since this old engine does tend to chug through the more intensive gameplay moments. My current rendering distance settings are set for recording gameplay, so they're tuned a bit lower so I can get a few extra frames. Whenever I'm recording cinematic shots or landscapes, I tend to crank all these to maximum for a more immersive sense of scale. Texture detail, object detail, and MIP bias seem to have little effect on my performance, so I tend to leave these at maximum. If you do find these affecting your performance though, I would not recommend lowering the menu lower than halfway, anisotropic filtering at maximum for the same reason. Anti-aliasing and gamma has a huge impact on your FPS. You probably do not need to go any higher than 2x for 1080p, but of course go as high as you wish if your system can handle it. Mine is at 0 because I smooth edges through the Reshade menu, which I'll share with you later in this video. S.M.A.L.K.E.R is another form of anti-aliasing, and in gamma it appears to be less demanding. I personally dislike how it looks, so I keep it off. Detailed bump, steep parallax, and tessellation don't seem to make much of a difference, so I leave those off by default. I see no performance hit from having them on though. The grass settings are some of the biggest FPS consumers. I recommend revisiting this menu often to adjust based on what part of the map you're on. I have a relatively modern build, so I can handle slightly higher settings, but I consistently tweak these whenever my performance starts to chug. Slight note regarding the grass size though, I do not recommend having this anything above 0.8, since NPCs can see through grass and you'll be spending a lot of time trying to figure out who's shooting at you. Grass shadows look great when enabled, but they kill your FPS, so most people will probably be better off having this off. The lighting menu will give you some of the most noticeable visual changes, so as always, I recommend making your own tweaks to create graphics that suit you the best. Lighting distance is lowest for me because I don't notice anything when I bump it up. Shadow quality smooths out the edges and casts shadows in the world, but it honestly does not look that bad when lowered, so feel free to turn it down if you need the extra FPS. Actor shadow is entirely preference. It just grants your character a cast shadow as you play. The gloss factor adds slight reflections to wet surfaces and is not too FPS demanding, but I keep mine off based on personal preference. Sun shadow though really does date the visuals, so I highly recommend keeping this enabled. The shadow quality is also important, but you will start to notice diminishing returns as you turn this up, so I don't recommend going above a medium quality if you need the performance boost. This option toggles God rays in your game. Volumetric are most dramatic and noticeable, but affect performance the most. If you're okay with a little nuance during your moments of divinity, I suggest sticking to screen space rendering. The sunray quality, base, and main intensity settings are personal preference, but I keep these low because I think they're a bit over the top when cranked up. Screen space ambient occlusion is great for adding depth to your image, and SSDO is the least performance intensive option. I do recommend keeping the SSAO quality at medium because it can create some noise and artifacts in the shading. Volumetric light is a subtle difference in the way the game is lit with little FPS consumption, so I would leave it on. Soft water affects how reflective bodies of water are in the world and has a medium to low FPS impact. When it is disabled, most water shows up as a little dark, though I like having it on. Wet surfaces can get demanding during heavy rain, but it looks really good when puddles start to form. If you can handle it, go for it, but it's pretty useless if it's not raining. I don't really notice or care for any of the other settings, which is why I have them disabled. A significant amount of my cinematic aesthetic is thanks to the Reshade presets that ship with the newer updates of Gamma. I make some subtle tweaks here and there, but you can get pretty close to the same look just by implementing these presets. The preset I use for videos in urban environments is Frozak's Grim version 2. The desaturated color palette adds a gritty mood to the decaying buildings and makes navigating spaces with dramatic lighting feel cinematic. I've modified it a bit to add a little sharpening, but I use it pretty much how it comes. My second most used preset is Frozak's Zone 79. The cooler palette helps when exploring outdoor natural areas, and the crisper image is great for capturing detailed scenes. You'll notice this preset more whenever I record videos set during a clear day. Now, I don't exclusively log on to Gamma to make videos, so there is a preset I prefer whenever I'm just playing. Hippobot's Atmos preset is by far my favorite. I am a fan of higher saturation and image clarity, and this Reshade preset feels like a true update to the original STALKER atmosphere and aesthetic. And my most situational preset is my modified version of Frozak's Area X. I disabled a few settings and added blooming HDR to capture large-scale landscapes. It's very moody, and I don't recommend keeping it on for anything but slow panning shots of the zone. Gamma by default sets the zone to look a bit more dreary and brown than other mod packs. I've disabled a few of the mods that set this up, and you can see them on the screen now. I prefer my zone a bit more green, but this is just personal preference. All other edits I've made in the mod manager are just for bug fixes or to increase performance. I recommend scrolling through these yourself to see what suits you best. Thank you for watching, and I hope I answered most of your questions. If there's anything else you'd like to know, feel free to either comment on this video or join the Discord server that's listed in the video description. See you soon.